I killed my parents, and I spent 6 months out there in horrible agony because I had done this. A year before, I told my mother how much I loved her. I could not have imagined doing this even a week before.
You may have heard of the Menendez brothers before, or you may just now be finding out about the brothers who killed their parents in cold blood. Either way, the controversy surrounding this new Netflix documentary are sending shockwaves through the internet as people tweet about the content involving incest and a possible sexual relationship between the brothers in multiple points in the episodes, as well as marketing materials to convince people to watch it. There's a power play kiss in the show's first episode, and then a scene later down the line that's showing the brothers showering together. While many people online, including those who haven't sat through the series' 10 episodes, have loud opinions about monsters, one voice cannot be ignored, that of Eric Menendez himself. Eric Menendez slams monsters. Eric, who is still in prison in California, released a statement about the series via the X account of his wife, Tammy, who he married while incarcerated in 1999. I believe we had moved beyond the lies and ruinous character portrayals of Lyle, creating a caricature of Lyle rooted in horrible and blatant lies rampant in the show. Eric's statement continues with, "I could only believe they were done so on purpose. It is with a heavy heart that I say I believe Ryan Murphy, producer and screenwriter, cannot be this naive and inaccurate about the facts of our lives so as to do this without bad intent." Hurt by the way he was portrayed in the series, he goes on to say, "It is sad for me to know that Netflix's dishonest portrayal of the tragedies surrounding our crime has taken the painful truth several steps backward. Back through time to an era when the prosecution built a narrative on a belief system that males were not sexually abused and that males experienced rape trauma differently than women." He ends the note by asking, "Is the truth not enough? Let the truth stand as the truth." The series examines both Lyle and Eric's nature in order, perhaps, to get closer to discerning the truth. As the real Eric Menendez notes, Lyle is positioned as a cold-hearted yuppie at many points, though his vulnerability is explored in some moments, especially around how he recounts his experience of sexual abuse and the guilt he feels about not being able to protect his brother. As for Eric, Murphy mostly interrogates the question marks around his sexuality. During the trial in 1993, the prosecution alluded to Eric's homosexuality as an attempt to discredit his account of sexual abuse by his father.
She would say, "What, are you gay, or are you not man enough for her? Are you just not... You're just not a man enough person to be with her? Is this what your problem is?" She would really get down on me.
In the series, Eric's fluid sexuality is explored explicitly in scenes with a fellow inmate in prison, and he tells his lawyer, Leslie Abramson, Ari Grainer, that he doesn't know how to define himself because his father's abuse has fundamentally broken him. A lot has changed since the early 90s, and we understand culturally the valley between consensual gay relationships and abuse at the hands of a male figure. The way Murphy chose to display the brothers has led to more cries from the public for their exoneration. For a long time, the dominant narrative drawn from the headlines began and ended with the prosecution's assertion that they were spoiled rich kids looking to remove a barrier to even greater wealth. As such, their case has been met with little cultural sympathy. But the brothers' grueling testimony about their abuse was presented in some scenes almost verbatim in Monsters.
"Why I am the way that I am, Eric and I both? Are you genuinely curious about that? What about all the times that you hit us or called us worthless in front of other people?"
"Yeah, what about it?"
"You want me to say it? It's abuse."
Leaving many viewers wondering how such little sympathy had been extended to them during their trial. As the series progresses, it increasingly conveys empathy for the brothers and offers a substantial amount of screen time to excavate the horrors of their abuse, from grim reenactments and flashbacks to the sign of repressed trauma in their adulthood on the stand. It's worth noting that snippets and TikTok clips from the brothers' trials have started recirculating online, both side by side against scenes from Monsters as evidence of the series' accuracy and on their own as proof of their trauma. Murphy and co-creator Ian Brennan have said that the idea to make the show was inspired by the prevalence of content related to the case on TikTok, which has a booming true crime community, where many have taken up the Menendez brothers' exoneration as a cause. The popularity of the show will undoubtedly inspire more to consume their content and join in their effort. Not only is the internet buzzing for the actual footage of the trial, but the story took on a whole new life when people found out Kim Kardashian visited the brothers in jail. In recent years, Kim K has become massively involved in criminal justice reform, going as far as lobbying the president and making cases to exonerate unjustly imprisoned people. Kim K, of course, made it a reality show about it all, which of course drives more eyes and hearts to her mission. It's worth noting, back in 2018, she managed to lead Alice Marie Johnson out of prison and has been passionate about the matter ever since. So it's no wonder that the star, alongside Coke, who plays Eric in the series, dropped by the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, where the brothers are incarcerated. The visit was to talk about a rehabilitation project for prisoners to spruce up prison yards, which has supposedly been spearheaded by the brothers. Some may view the visit with skepticism. Kardashian, as well as being active in prison reform, is also a collaborator of Ryan Murphy's, having appeared in the most recent series of American Horror Story. But whatever the motivations behind the visit, Kardashian's track record of shining a light on cases that demand to be revisited may ultimately be beneficial to those fighting the cause of exoneration. Following their visit, Coke spoke about his conversations with Eric, both on the phone in advance of the show's premiere and during his visit to prison. Despite Eric's criticism of the show, Coke says when he arrived there, the pair just looked at each other and immediately embraced. There were powerful words shared by Coke on the case. They committed the crime when they were 18 and 21 years old, and at the time, it was really hard for people to believe that male-on-male sexual abuse could occur, especially with father and son, Coke continued. But now, after 35 years, we have so much more evidence of child sexual abuse and male-on-male sexual abuse that I think they do deserve to be retried. He called Eric and Lyle such upstanding individuals, spotlighting Eric's meditation and speech classes and a project they are involved in to improve the prison grounds. It was announced just 4 days after the release of Monsters that a new docuseries will be in the works featuring audio interviews with the brothers recorded from prison, among interviews with other key figures from the case, and this will land on the streaming service on October 7th. In the trailer, Lyle says,
"Everyone asks why we kill their parents. Maybe now people can understand the truth."
Eric then adds,
"So we were not the ones who told the story of our life. Two kids don't commit this crime for money."
After Eric's open disappointment with Murphy's fictional account of their story, Netflix is poised to take viewers' fascination all the way to the streaming charts. If viewers were horrified by the liberties taken by Murphy, maybe they'll watch the Menendez-approved show instead. More than likely, people who guzzled up the series will be hitting play on the docuseries as well. The devil works hard, but clearly Netflix works harder. Who was the Menendez family? So that was the controversy surrounding the documentary. But don't you want to know who the Menendez family was? Well, it all starts with the patriarch of the family, Jose Menendez, who was a Cuban immigrant who moved to the United States shortly after the Cuban Revolution of the 1950s. He met and married Mary Louise Anderson, who went by the nickname Kitty. After earning an accounting degree at Queens College, Jose worked his way up the corporate ladder, working as an executive at Hertz and later RCA Records. In 1968, the couple had Lyle, and Eric arrived in 1970. The family moved from New York City to New Jersey before finally settling in Los Angeles, where they purchased an opulent home in Beverly Hills. Lyle and Eric have maintained that their father began to sexually abuse Lyle when the older boy was between the ages of 6 and 8. They claim he began to sexually abuse Eric when the younger brother turned 6. Lyle and Eric's older cousin Diane Vander Molen testified in support of the brothers' claims of abuse. Vander Molen regularly spent summers with the Menendezes, and she recalled Lyle telling her about the alleged incidents in 1976 when she was 17 and he was 8. "One night I was in my room changing the sheets in my bed, and Lyle came in and asked me if he could sleep in the other bed next to mine, and saying that he was afraid to sleep in his own bed because his father and he had been touching each other down there, indicating that it was his genital area." Vander Molen told their mom Kitty about what Lyle had said, but she refused to believe her son's claims. "By her demeanor, I could tell that she was not believing any of this," Vander Molen said. and she went downstairs, and Lyle had already gotten into the bed next to mine, and she went ahead and yanked him by the arm and took him back upstairs, and I never heard anything else about that. Vandermolen added in a chilling statement, "I know that they would never ever have done what they did unless they felt they had no choice, that it was either them or their parents. I believe that very strongly." How did the murders happen? On August 20th, 1989, 21-year-old Lyle and 18-year-old Eric shot their parents over a dozen times with a 12-gauge shotgun in the den of the family's Beverly Hills home, where Jose and Kitty were reportedly watching television. Jose was shot at point-blank range, while Kitty was shot in her attempt to flee. Both brothers have since said that an argument with their parents preceded the fatal shootings. Eric said, "I was in the foyer, Lyle was coming out of the den, and my mom was following him and saying, 'You're not going out.' And Lyle said, 'Why?' And my mom said, 'Because I said so.' And then my dad came out and he told my mom to shut up. He looked at Lyle and said, 'You're not going out.' He told me to go to my room, and he told me he would be there in a minute." Lyle shared a similar testimony in court, recalling having said, "You're not going to touch my brother." Once he said that, their father charged at Lyle and yelled, "I do what I want in my family. He's not your little brother, he's my son," Eric elaborated. After the outburst, Lyle shared that Kitty said, "I had ruined the family. Then my dad came out and took her by the arm, and they walked into the den, and then my dad closed the doors. I was sure that was it. I realized that they had been waiting for Eric to get home like I had been, and I just freaked out. I thought they were going ahead with their plan to kill us." Lyle then rushed upstairs to his brother, allegedly telling him, "It's happening now." The adrenaline was out of this world, and he shared, "I felt like my heart was going to explode. It was just pounding." He continued, "I felt like my life was over right then." How did they get caught? Following the slaying of their parents, Lyle and Eric changed into clean clothes and purchased movie tickets for Batman. Why is Batman always connected to shootings? When they arrived back home, Lyle called 911, pretending to have discovered his parents' dead bodies in between hysterical sobs. "I think I was just absolutely broken down with stress," he later recalled in a Dateline interview. This is the weird part. Over the next 6 months, the brothers spent their late parents' money lavishly, with Lyle buying multiple Rolexes, Eric hiring a tennis coach with a price tag of $60,000 per year, and both leasing waterfront condominiums in Marina del Rey, according to TNC. Together, they spent $1 million in the span of half a year. If you killed your parents, spending a bunch of money in the first 6 months makes you look way more suspicious. Still, the murders haunted the brothers. Eric ended up confessing to the crimes during a session with his psychologist, Jerome Oziel, who thereafter told his mistress, Judalon Smith. Smith ultimately went to the police with this information, leading to the brothers' arrests. Their cases became a cultural sensation, with many following the televised trials on court TV. In 1993, they both took the stand in separate trials with defense lawyer Leslie Abramson, who argued that the brothers had murdered their parents believing that their own lives were at risk and that they had endured traumatic physical and sexual abuse from their father. Family members testified in support of these claims, including Vandermolen, Kitty's sister Joan Vandermolen, and the brothers' cousin Andy Cano. Both their trials ended in a hung jury. Unfortunately for Lyle and Eric, they were tried again jointly in 1996. In this new trial, the judge limited evidence that would support the brothers' claims of abuse. They were ultimately convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and conspiracy to murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Following their conviction, Lyle and Eric were sent to separate facilities. After years of Lyle repeatedly requesting a transfer to a prison closer to his brother, he was eventually relocated in 2018 to the Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, where he and Eric are both serving out their life sentences to this day. When they were at last reunited in person after spending more than 20 years apart, Eric and Lyle reportedly burst into tears immediately. They simply hugged each other without saying any words to each other. Then the prison guards let them spend an hour together in a room. What have family members said about the Monster Show? On September 25th, Eric and Lyle's relatives also expressed their distaste for Murphy's latest series in a statement penned by Kitty's sister Joan. "We are virtually the entire extended family of Eric and Lyle Menendez," Joan began. "We are 24 strong, and today we want the world to know we support Eric and Lyle. We individually and collectively pray for their release after being in prison for 35 years. We know them, love them, and want them home with us." She continued with, "Our family has been victimized by this grotesque shock drama. The character assassination of Eric and Lyle, who are our nephews and cousins, under the guise of a storytelling narrative is repulsive. We know these men. We grew up with them since they were boys. We love them, and to this very day we are close to them. We also know what went on in their home and the unimaginably turbulent lives they have endured. Several of us were eyewitnesses to many atrocities one should never have to bear witness to. With so many new elements coming out about this story, it is possible we see an exoneration for the Menendez brothers, especially considering just last year, in May 2023, Peacock released Menendez and Menudo, Boys Betrayed. The 3-episode docuseries features an interview with 54-year-old Roy Rosello, a former member of the boy band Menudo, who says Jose Menendez, a record executive, drugged and raped him when he was only 14. The documentary examines what the allegations could mean for the brothers. If the abuse allegations and evidence weren't allowed in the trial that convicted them, this new information could be the very thing that sets them free. One thing is for sure, multiple crimes occurred within this family, and it's a tragic story that seems to only be getting more and more attention as the content world we're living in grows and expands into new territory. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you enjoyed this look into this controversial docuseries and criminal case, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more awesome content. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.